Hi, everybody. Welcome to Talk It Out. My name is Christopher Spurling. Pronouns are he, him. I'm a health educator with Health Promotion Services here at UCSD. My specialty area is men's health and well-being, but we also work on LGBT health as well as some other areas. Um, Welcome to Talk It Out. This is our new campaign that we're doing because generally speaking, men underutilize healthcare services, especially mental health care services, and college men are no exception to that. It's important to take care of your mental health, just like it's important to take care of your physical health. And this campaign, Talk It Out, is all about bringing these issues to light and making these conversations more common for college men. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Mike McGlenn, a psychologist with UCSD Counseling and Psychological Services. He's a postdoctoral resident here at CAPS, where he specifically works with students at Student Health Services as well. He helps students with a range of issues, including sleep, anxiety, adjustment, depression, men's health issues like erectile dysfunction, and responses to traumatic events. To sort of get started with this interview today, I'd love just to get a general overview of who you are and sort of an introduction of why mental health is important to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. So just to give a sense of why this is important to me. I mean, I can think of so many folks that I've worked with, especially with men, where we're often socialized not to identify and label our internal experiences as they are. And part of the environments that we're in teach us that those things aren't okay, which ultimately creates a bind for us, right? And I find it happens so much for the folks I end up seeing where, inevitably we all experience stuff and shove it down. And when we shove it down or avoid it or do some things with it that maybe aren't helpful, it makes our lived experience that much harder. It makes it harder for us to adapt to the environment. So I think the reason why mental health is so important is because, our body and brain are part of the same system. They're integrally linked, right? We can't escape ourselves. So it's really important to maintain our mental health because that affects our physical health, just like it's important to, maintain our physical health because that will affect our mental health as well. So I think by maintaining our mental health, we're taking care of our overall well-being, for sure. Part of the whole system.
Gotcha. And that makes perfect sense. Everything's so connected, and I'm glad that we are bringing these conversations out. And I think we need to have to talk about this a lot more. And speaking of talking about these things a lot more, and bringing these sorts of issues to light, I know sometimes college men may feel a little scared to go to therapy or may not know exactly what's involved in all of that. So maybe it's just what's something that you wish college men knew about mental health therapy and the counseling process?
Totally. And I love this question because the way, and this is what I feel for everyone, especially with men too, is health is about a big part of health is adapting to our circumstances, our ability to meet the challenges as they come up for us. And as I was mentioning before, some of the ways that we're socialized, we're not given the tools that we, as men, oftentimes in our societies, aren't given the tools that we need to be able to manage the challenges that we have, especially internally. And so given that adapting to our circumstances is important, we want to make sure that we have those tools. Okay. And so ultimately what I believe is we want to do what works. Okay. So if the tool that you're using for yourself to manage, stress, anxiety, sadness, frustration, whatever it is that might be coming up, if your tool is working for you, great, keep it up. If it's not, let's do something about it. And I think that's where therapy comes in because I see therapy as an opportunity to develop your toolkit. So you can function at your best and adapt to the circumstances that are at hand. Yeah, and so I think with therapy, it gets an opportunity to develop the skills you need to manage the stress, develop the skills to meet the challenges as they come throughout life. So for a lot of guys that I've worked with, there's a lot of fear about, they see it as a scary process. And really the way I see it, is sure, therapy can be a very meaningful and connecting experience. And it can also be potentially a scary one. And it's one that I think that involves courage because courage involves the ability to face fear, to be able to move forward in the face of fear. So I see therapy as a real opportunity for growth that can be a pretty exciting process. So yeah, I think therapy involves a lot of courage as well.
I love that. I think there's such a cultural image of seeing these things as somewhat less masculine or less strong. And I think it takes strength. It takes a lot of courage to be able to reach out when you need that. And even just for prevention or just for maintenance, whatever that looks like, I think it does take a lot of courage. And I also love the analogy that you just used of the tool belt. We have different tools for different projects, right? And I think we need to know what those tools are to be able to use them. And these are really, really good ways to learn those tools.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, like if it's relationships, for example, if the tool we're using with our friend or partner or family member isn't working, we want to make sure that we're communicating effectively. So therapy can be helpful for learning those skills. Therapy can be helpful for learning what to do with managing anxiety and nervousness that comes up. It really can be an opportunity to basically help us function at our best. And that's the kind of the way I think about it. I'm just a resource to help you build on the skills that you have, maybe learn some new ones to help you, function more effectively. That's how I see therapy.
Awesome. And on that note, speaking of you as a resource for students, what does that process look like if a student would like to seek therapy or if someone would like to reach out for some sort of counseling assistance?
Absolutely. And certainly the pandemic has changed things a little bit in terms of how that looks, but overall it's the same process. So counseling and psych services is available we have tons of resources through CAPS. So there we have groups and workshops that we offer where you can learn skills, you can meet and get support from peers as well who might be going through specific experiences. If you're looking for something we also have self-help resources as well through iFlourish. Headspace is one of those and some other ones as well. And lastly, if you're interested in individual counseling, folks can contact CAPS at 858-534-3755. And all this information is available if you type in UCSD CAPS on Google or whatever search engine you have. It should be one of the first things that pops up there. We have tons of resources on there, right? Right now May is Mental Health Month, so there's all sorts of events and things going on. You can find the CAPS calendar on there where you can see all the different events and resources we have as well. But basically someone would call that number that I gave earlier and they'd speak with a counselor briefly, would get them scheduled in to have a brief conversation about what's kind of going on, what's bringing them in. From there, they'll get paired up with a counselor if they're interested in individual counseling, or if they kind of figure out if that's what's best. And really the process, and certainly this is the way I operate, and I know this is how my colleagues operate, is we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. And so you and I, we would collaborate with each other to figure out what's going on, what's bothering you the most, what do we think the plan is for helping you overcome that stuff, and work on getting you those tools so we can get you back to that recovery that you're wanting to have. So it's a real collaborative process. I don't think we have any couches to lay on like some people may think. But that does sound nice, but it's more of a collaborative, it definitely is a collaborative process. And we just want to be able to make sure we're meeting your needs.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And just one last thing I wanted to share is that if you are in an urgent or crisis scenario and you need to contact CAPS, they do have a 24/7 urgent crisis line. It's that same number. It's 858-534-3755. And you can choose option 2 if it's outside of business hours. Of course, you're always able to call 911 and those sorts of emergency cases.
Absolutely.
That being said, that's all we've got for you today for Talk It Out. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike McGlenn, for joining us today. I know we'll see you around a lot in future episodes and everything. You've been so helpful with everything that we've done here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.